Miami, 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 Miami. It feels like Miami.
Welcome to the Miami Heat Beat Podcast. I'm your host, Giancarlo Navas, and with me today, welcoming back to the show, old friend of the show, one of the OG friend of the shows, Justin Rowan of the Chase Down. Justin, welcome back.
Dude, it's so good to be back. We are finally getting a Miami Heat Cleveland Cavaliers series. All these years later, we're finally getting one, damn it.
We're a decade late, but think about how hyped this would have been 10 years ago. Think about 2015 Heat Cavs year.
Man, we have come so close so many times too, right? Like even when LeBron went back to Cleveland, we thought, hey, maybe the Joe Johnson Miami Heat are
They were
going
a
to
game
get
away.
there.
They were a game in Toronto away that they absolutely got blown out. And that series, Miami had a bajillion injuries. So I think had they gotten to Cleveland, it would have.
That was the Chris Bosh blood clot year, right?
Yeah, that was one of the Chris Bosh blood clot. Remember, there were two.
Fair.
Shout out to Dame Lillard, who's apparently good to go for maybe this series. Hopefully he's okay. Scary stuff all around. But a year late, listen, we could have gotten prime D-Wade LeBron multiple times, thwarted by the Atlanta Hawks and Boston one year. And then, as we just talked about, that series against the Raptors. But hey, we're here. Are you ready for DMitch versus DMitch?
You know what? The fact that man is wearing 45 and that has been his consistent bit is terrific. I want him to go to every single team. I think he's found a home in Miami. I think what he's done has been pretty impressive there. Yeah. But I would have loved it if he just kept signing with every team that's been rumored to land Donovan Mitchell. Because when the Miami Heat tweeted out the picture of the jersey with the 45, Mitchell 45, it's a terrific bit. I need to see it. I need to see a Knicks version of that. I need to see a Nets version of that. I want him to sign with every single team that we were told Donovan Mitchell was going to go to.
It's crazy because it's the DMitch 45. You can't. Pat Riley always gets his man. We joked when he signed Juwan Howard in 2010. For those who don't know, Pat Riley really wanted Juwan Howard in the 90s, could not get him. That man always gets his man. He got his whale.
He got his whale.
He got his whale, dude,
in Miami.
Now, I would imagine that, to much surprise, our DMitch, Davion Mitchell, is shooting better from three than Donovan Mitchell in a surprising upset, which I actually think, and we can just get started right there. I think that's one of the biggest questions I have going into the series. So Alec Burke has been starting for the Heat. Part of that was they had a lot of injuries kind of coming in to the end of the season. So Alec Burke kind of slotted in nicely for the injured Duncan Robinson. And I think with Terry Rozier's, I don't want to say downfall because that's too kind, absolute collapse, the plunge into the basketball darkness that he had became unplayable. Jaquez has become unplayable. And we talked about this on the Atlanta pod that we did with David Lee. They needed a ball handler with that second unit. So that has moved Davion to the second unit. And again, I wonder if Eric Spoelstra is going to look into starting him, whether it's early in this series or at some point, because between Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland, those guys, honestly, I don't know if Darius is he going to make all NBA?
I think maybe just with the end of this season, kind of how the Cavs weren't really playing for anything. I joked about, the Golden State Warriors get so much credit for how well they played since the All-Star break. They have the exact same number of wins as the Cavs over that period of time.
Yeah.
And so it's like, the surging Warriors, you just have to reward Draymond for that because of the amount of wins. You can't give it to Evan Mobley. Meanwhile, the Cavs have just as many wins, even though they didn't really have anything to play for. I think Darius is going to be on the outside looking in.
75 games played. I think that matters. I think 75 games played in 2025 for a guard of his size, I think that should get rewarded.
And honestly, he only missed 2 with injury. Kenny Atkinson has been playing all of these guys basically career low minutes. It's career low for
31
Donovan.
minutes for Darius Garland this year, which is, since his rookie year, the lowest of his career.
It's the lowest for Evan Mobley. It's the lowest for Donovan Mitchell. Like, and some of that has been as well. They've blown teams out, right? Like
Yeah.
they are just getting to rest in the fourth quarter fairly frequently. But for the Cavs, this is the second best offense in NBA history when you look at offensive rating.
Insane.
And
121.
Darius Garland has been, the driver of that. They are 8.4 points better offensively with him on the court versus off. And that offensive rating actually increases in the minutes that he's playing without Donovan Mitchell. Darius has been terrific this season. He had a bit of a slump after taking a hard fall when he got hit by Karl Anthony Towns. He landed on his face, missed a couple games after that, and it took him a little while to find his rhythm. But he's been terrific all year. And if you want to reward them for what they've done offensively, which has frankly been, the leading cause of their success this season, I think Darius deserves at least a third team nod. But I kind of expect it's going to be Donovan and Mobley, which, they're both deserving as well.
Again, but the fact that we're having a conversation that they have 2 all NBA guys in their backcourt against a Heat team that I think, frankly, historically has struggled against not just good guard play, but fast guards. And Darius Garland is fast,
Yeah.
which kind of brings an interesting question. If you're Miami, it's like, who's, Andrew Wiggins has been guarding wings and guards. Saw he played a lot on Kobe White in the first play-in game. For full transparency, we are recording this on Friday before Heat Hawks, so maybe he guards Trae Young. I don't know. Justin and I are doing a just-in-case pod because it's a holiday weekend and we all have stuff to do. So
I thought we were doing this because we're both so confident that Miami's going to win it and they're going to make it through. I thought we weren't even going to allude to the fact that this game hasn't occurred yet.
No. I mean, listen, and I tweeted out. I go, "There's just no way that I did a podcast with David Lee yesterday of Hawks Film School, and I think we all came away with the same take. It's like there's just no way that Atlanta's going to beat Miami. Now, this could be a galaxy brain jinx by me, but who knows? But I think that Justin, that's the question I have. Which of them is going to guard Darius, and which of them is going to guard Mitchell? I think probably Wiggins sees Garland because I think Wiggins can use that size a little bit more effectively. And I think Donovan Mitchell on Davion Mitchell on Donovan Mitchell. I think Donovan's really strong, and I think Davion kind of brings that strength that at his size can match him in foot speed. I think that's kind of where we're headed long term for this series.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think forcing the Cavs to prove that they can generate offense in the playoffs against length is the most important thing. Like they have failed in the playoffs before. It has never been on the defensive end. People will always talk about the small backcourt and, teams can pick on them, etc. They had an elite defensive rating against Boston with both of the guards on the court. They actually outscored Boston with both of the guards on the court. And that was a series where Jared Allen was out because he had a broken rib. People forget about that. So, the Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, Max Strus, and Evan Mobley lineup outscored Boston and had an elite defensive rating.
Is that their starting unit? Is that like you think that's their starting unit for the series?
I think Max Strus, but between the core four is basically how they're going to roll out in the playoffs. That's what they've done all regular season. DeAndre Hunter, since being acquired, I think he only has 53 possessions with the core four, which is really surprising because that's kind of what I anticipate being the closing lineup, particularly later in the playoffs against Boston. No disrespect to Miami, but the tendency.
We all know the deal.
Yeah, so I think that's how they're going to go about it. That lineup has been terrific, but I would expect Davion to cover Donovan, put length on Darius, and we'll see, man. Like the whole thing is, if you're going to have a smaller backcourt where both guards are 6'3", 6'4", and below, we've never seen that win in the NBA without a front court initiator, and that's going to have to be Evan Mobley, right? Like even. Miami, when they won with Dwayne Wade and Mario Chalmers, you had a LeBron, right? You had a Shaq to at least alleviate that. Golden State, when it's Steph Curry and Jordan Poole, you had Draymond Green that did that role. When Toronto was playing heavy minutes of 5'11" Kyle Lowry and Fred VanVleet out there, you had a Marc Gasol, you had a Kawhi Leonard, you had front court initiation. So I think that the smaller backcourt thing isn't as rare as people say it is, but I think ultimately, is Evan Mobley able to be that front court hub that causes defenses to change what they're doing and play them honestly and unlock the Cavs offense? That's what we're waiting to learn when it comes to the Cavs in this postseason.
So that kind of brings me to the next point where I think that the Cavs front court is particularly interesting against Miami because pretty much kind of around January, February, Heat really started to play Ware and Bam together. And that's been mixed. And I think that I could pull up lineup data. And again, I think it really goes with how well Ware is going to shoot the ball. I think the offense has been mixed. Sometimes it looks really good when Ware shoots well, and it could look like it wheezes to 90 points when he doesn't shoot well. But that is their starting lineup, and that kind of gives them an element where I think before starting Caleb Martin at the 4 against this front court, this is not Dwight Howard in his twilight and Anthony Davis, where Miami was able to play Dwight off the floor with Kelly Olynyk and Redacted Leonard.
Yeah.
That's an all NBA guy, and Jared Allen is one of the 10 best centers in the league. You
Mhm.
know, something like that. So I do think Bam on Mobley makes sense. I think that you need to have Bam guarding the creator, guarding the guy that can damage you the most in the most ways. And Jared Allen, I don't want to pigeonhole him into just being a roll man. He's an elite roll man, 72% true shooting on the season, 75 at the rim. Really good mid-range shooter, almost 60% from mid-range for him as well.
First ever 70-70 guy in the NBA.
That's crazy. Oh my God. Yeah, dude, he's been fantastic. And I just think it makes more sense. Khalil, you are athletic, you are young. Try to contain him. You were going to play in a drop. And I think that's how the front court matchups are going to go. And I imagine Cleveland would do the same. I think Mobley on Bam, Allen on Ware. And I think that I probably think that the guards as well. I think Mitchell probably guards Herro.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
Herro. Yeah.
Yeah, the Cavs play teams pretty straight up defensively. Like that's one thing that I think both Donovan and Darius deserve a lot of credit for. Like Darius doesn't want to shy away from these elite point guard matchups. He will guard guys straight up. He's kind of in that Steph Curry zone where screen navigation is going to be there. He's going to stay in front of guys defensively. He's going to get his arms up. He's actually longer than Steph when you look at the standing reach.
Really?
Yeah, I think he's an inch shorter, but he's got a bit longer of a standing reach. But the thing about the Steph Curry thing is, even though he turned into a very solid team defender, teams are still going to target him, right? One, to wear him down so he doesn't have as much offensively. And two, you're the shortest guy on the court. We're going to go at you, right? Whether or not you're a good defender. So I think they're going to play them pretty straight up. And, the Bam Mobley matchup, I think, is the most interesting for me. When we were doing a preview and it was between the Hawks and the Heat, I was saying I want the Miami Heat. I want to play Miami, not because I think it's the easier matchup, but because I want to be tested. I know what Eric Spoelstra can do from an adjustment standpoint. I have a tremendous amount of respect for Bam Adebayo. We've been, comparing Bam as the template for Evan Mobley of, hey, if he can be a 7-foot Bam Adebayo, you're cooking with gas. You have something that you can build around. You have something you can win a championship with. So if Mobley is able to succeed against Bam Adebayo, if he's able to be a driving force in this series, you're going to go through the playoffs with a higher level of confidence than you would him, dominating 20 minutes against George Niang and the Atlanta Hawks. Right? Like, that you're not going to learn anything new about Evan Mobley if he's putting up, 20 and 15 against George Niang and, Mo Gabe.
Yeah. So sorry, I was looking at to be honest with you, I was looking at Darius Garland's measurables when you said that, because I thought that was insane, given what you said, but you are correct.
There you go.
The Mobley Bam thing is funny because I think Miami also, we see that comp a lot, like Mobley and Bam, and obviously Mobley's going to make an All NBA team this year. Bam has not done that. He's made quite a few all defensive teams, but not quite all NBA. And I think you got to attribute a lot of Mobley's kind of offensive skill set to that. He's been absolutely fantastic all over the floor as a shooter, as a roller. The passing, the assist percentage is up. Turnovers are down. All that stuff.
Like, he's nuts, man. Like, before we move off of Evan Mobley, can I just say, like, that guy was drafted to a 19-win team, and in his rookie year, they won at a 48-win pace when he was in the lineup. Like, they won 44 games. Like, Jared Allen missed basically all of post All-Star. Darius missed time. Karras missed time. Sexton was out for the year. Lowry missed time. Like, they slipped down to the play-in and they lost in the play-in, but they had the exact same number of wins as the Detroit Pistons. They were the 3 seed at the All-Star break, the All-Star game in Cleveland there. Like they got 2 All-Stars because they were that damn good. And that was Evan Mobley transforming them defensively. For his career, they win at nearly a 54-win pace when Evan Mobley's in the lineup. Like this guy is nuts. He is.
Now, he deserves all the praise, all the awards, everything. And I think that's going to be the most fun matchup on the floor. The fact that those two guys are going to guard each other, the fact that those two guys, I think, want to do similar things on the floor on both ends. And I wonder. I actually do think that that's an area. Who do you give the edge? I think I give it a little bit to Cleveland just because I think Mobley's a little bit more polished, a lot more polished offensively. I'll be honest. I think probably I'd take Bam as a defender over Mobley because I think Bam can do has a little bit more versatility on that end, but I think you give the edge to Mobley on offense. And Mobley has the size. Mobley's bigger than Bam's 6'9". Yeah. Mobley's going to be 7 feet, and I think we're going to really see. I don't think they're going to leave Bam alone. I think it's going to be swarm and recover, which I think is tough against Cleveland because, again, a guy like Mobley does move the ball. I think they move the ball well, and they have a lot of guards that can drive against a bent defense. So if you're in rotation and whoever's on the weak side, even if that's Strus on the weak side, that's a guy that in Miami we're very familiar with. He can take a dribble, right? He can get into the paint. He can finish. He's pretty athletic. He can make kind of an easy read off help and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I really think that the big battleground is there. And then whoever Tyler Herro's on, can they survive?
Yeah, I think it's going to start in the paint. And like the reality is, if you start to lose the battle in the paint, if Mobley and Allen are having their way, you're not going to be able to contain the Cavs offense. Like I think that really is going to be kind of the main battlegrounds of the series, because if the defense is scrambling to contain what those guys can do on the interior, man, you're not going to be able to stick with the guards. Like Davion can do a great job, but the problem with the Cavs is it comes in waves. Like you are always dealing with at least 2 of these guys out there, and in the highest leverage minutes, you're going to have both bigs out there, and you're going to have 2 elite, playmaking guards, right? I think that's what's made them so special this year, where it's like, okay, Donovan and Mobley check out, and you have to now deal with Darius Garland and Jared Allen pick and rolls with a DeAndre Hunter out there, Max Strus, Isaac Okoro is a high-level defender. We can put Sam Merrill in as a shooter. Ty Jerome comes in, and, go look at
the depth kills you. Like, if you're Miami, like, when we've talked about these playing teams that don't have any depth, and then you play a team like Cleveland where, like, any of these guys would be a starter for you.
Right, and in the current NBA right now, most teams, you have 2 high-end guys, and then you have really high-level role players around there. You can say, okay, Bam's going to guard whoever their main big is, and Davion's going to make life hell for whoever the lead guard is. You can do that against like a Miami with Giannis and Dame. With the Cavs, it's okay, we have 2 guards we have to account for, and we have 2 bigs that we need to account for. Jared Allen is a really, really underrated passer. Like you look... Yeah. Last year, he's doing a little less this year just because Evan Mobley's taken on such a larger playmaking role. But last year, he had the exact same assist percentage as Isaiah Hartenstein, right? Like he's someone that can make a lot of reads in those situations. And I think that puts Bam in a really tough spot because the Cavs can run a lot of the same stuff with Evan Mobley, and they can run it with Jared Allen. Either of them can take their turns in the dunker spot. Either of them is able to throw a lob to one another or make the right read in those spots or kick it out to a 3-point shooter. It makes things really difficult when you have all 4 of those guys. And then to put, on top of that, you have 2 of the top 3 probable finalists for 6th man of the year in Ty Jerome and DeAndre Hunter coming in off the bench, right? So no matter what, if you're having, 4 of those guys out there at all times, that's going to put the Cavs in a really good situation. And really, that's how they have to win. If you don't have a bona fide top 5 player in the NBA, you need to have, 3 guys in all NBA consideration, 1 guy that was, a fringe all-star, 2 6th man of the year type candidates. Like that is the only way you can...
And a guy who can explode for 45.
Right.
Which they have. We have 2 of those guys.
Yeah, right. So
yeah.
I think this is kind of the model, right? Like I don't think that the Cavs, as great as Donovan Mitchell is, I don't know if he can be the best player in a series for 4 consecutive rounds, But the way that they're constructed, he might be the third best player in one series, and Darius steps up or Evan steps up, right? Like I think they have enough high-end depth that they can kind of do that by committee to some extent, or at least that's the theory.
They're my finals pick, Justin. I've been impressed with everything and kind of exactly what you're saying. And I look at it like if you're Donovan Mitchell, you probably have to be the best player 2 out of 4 wins.
Yeah.
Right? Darius can get you another one, and your depth gets you another one. And I think if you look at it, not to simplify it, right, or be reductive about it, but I think that's a way you can look at it. Where okay, DMitch, you gotta blow up, and you gotta be the best dude 2 out of 4 times.
Yep.
Darius, you got to do it one time. Like win us a game. And
Yep.
that's doable. These guys are at that level. These guys are all, you know how hard it is to make all NBA today? Like Bam has never made an all NBA team. Like think about that. Like I want Heat fans to understand that Cleveland has 3 dudes that could potentially make it, and Bam has never made one, right? And that's a guy that we view as a max player, that he's a franchise guy for them, that we don't want to leave, the kind of bear of the culture.
He's a top 20 player. Like I cannot stress enough how much respect I have for Bam Adebayo. Like I think he's brilliant. He's one of my favorite players to watch. I think he is so intelligent. He's an absolute joy to watch. And, I want the Cavs to be tested, man. Like, I don't want it to be last year's Boston Celtics, where every single series has an asterisk on it. And, people are talking about the easiest route. Bring me Damian Lillard. Let him
like
be
that,
healthy.
dude. I like that. That's the confidence you get that your team has won a title.
I want heads on the wall, man. I want a Bucks head on the wall. I want Spo
you want
on the
like
wall.
that Raptors run in 2019.
Don't get me started about that title. The 1 year that the Warriors aren't healthy, the Raptors.
That's right. Yeah,
that's one damn year.
Well, that's my favorite basketball team of all time.
I know, but because you're a sicko, because you're awful. Win. You know what? The great thing about this here podcast is everyone tells you how awful you are. Yeah, that's what I love every time I tune in.
It's a sicko pick. I fucking love it. We haven't talked enough about Tyler Herro, and I think that he's coming off his best year. We've in that Bulls game, I mean, he was sensational in the Bulls playing game. He's a guy that Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland, for all that we've talked about, I wouldn't call them defensive stoppers. And Jared Allen, I think, is an interesting kind of component to this, because as athletic, and he's going to play and drop. I don't think they're going to switch him a ton. They will play zone, and we're going to get into this team zone. I have a fun anecdote about that also. But I think this could be potentially a pretty good Herro series. I think getting a big and drop is always good for him. Guys like him and Duncan Robinson really thrive off that. I think he can kind of get his offense going. Where I worry is how Cleveland configures their help, and I was kind of hoping you can help me with that a little bit. So Miami typically loves, we're vacating that weak side corner. That's why Miami allows a ton of threes. I think Cleveland allows kind of a medium amount of threes.
We're middle of the pack.
Yeah, they're middle of the pack. So I think they're going to stay home on more shooters, which kind of in theory helps, because I think the one thing that really will bother Herro is going to be switching, which we can also talk about how much you think Cleveland's going to do that. Switching zone and big help, which Cleveland has a lot of size, but I don't view them as a team that's going to overhelp. How do you view their defensive configuration against a guy that I don't think has the best first step in the world, really relies on leveraging his pull-up shooting to create space, has really good tight handle, doesn't turn the ball over a ton, and has okay finishing, not great. That's how he scores.
I really hope that they play him pretty straight up. This has kind of been my thing when it comes to the Cavs, is in the regular season in the past, they've played teams straight up. And then in the postseason, I felt like they almost let other teams dictate the terms to them. Like, I think back to that Knicks series, they overreacted like crazy to Jalen Brunson, who did not have that efficient of a series to begin with. But because they were in such a scramble mode to, get the ball out of his hands, to take things away, they were giving up all these offensive rebounds. I want to trust the base defense a little more than they have in the past. But we don't know, man. Like, we don't know how Kenny Atkinson is going to approach the playoffs in comparison to the regular season. He has only coached 5 games in the playoffs with basically, I think it was a play-in Brooklyn team, or, on the fringes there in that weird COVID year. Like, you're not going to learn a whole lot from that sample, but regular season Kenny Atkinson plays just as much zone as anybody in the league, not named Eric Spoelstra. A ton a ton of soft switching. Like they just kind of trust everybody. Like if it's Darius Garland switching on to Jason Tatum, they've lived with that, man. Darius Garland has contested more Jason Tatum shots than any player in the NBA this season.
That's
Like,
crazy. You for real?
yeah, like
Damn.
and Tatum, to Darius's credit, he's 10 of 26. Like the thing
he's a
there,
fraud, bro. He's a fraud.
We're not going to get into that, but here's the thing. He's a mediocre mid-range shooter, and that switch, like Boston just hunts mismatches, right? Like that's what they do. They hunt mismatches and they play isolation ball. I think that's why they are prone to swings in both directions when it comes to runs.
Yeah.
But Jason Tatum, when he sees Darius, it's almost like when LeBron would see Boris Diaw, where he's like, all right, I'm taking a mid-range shot against Boris. And Tatum's as a 40% mid-range shooter, that is the equivalent of a 27% three-point shooter.
It's a Kobe in him, bro. It's a Kobe in him.
The Cavs are going to live with that. And I think the same thing is true when it comes to this Miami matchup, where I think they're just going to trust Donovan to do his part. If Bam's coming up for screens, you're going to have Evan Mobley, who is very comfortable switching onto the perimeter. He leads the team in 2-point field goal contests and 3-point field goal contests. Mobley contests over 5 3-point attempts per game. He's very comfortable out there. So I think they're going to trust that. I expect them to still play a fairly switch-heavy style. But the one thing I'm going to keep an eye on is how much zone are they going to play against Miami? They've had some concerns about their defensive rebounding down the stretch this season. They haven't felt great about the team's focus and attention to detail there.
Yeah.
And one of the things Kenny Atkinson said is, hey, it is a little harder to rebound out of the zone. Miami's not a great offensive rebounding team. In fact, they're a very poor one.
Like
so do they feel that do they feel like they're going to get away with still playing a lot of zone because Miami's not a threat in that way? Or do they view this as, hey, this is what we're going to expect to play if we're playing Milwaukee and Indiana and Boston and OKC, if we ultimately, achieve our goals? Are we going to use this to experiment and work on what's been one of our weaknesses? That's how I'm hoping they approach this, but we do not know what Kenny Atkinson's going to do here.
So I actually have a fun anecdote about that. So I've been on Fear the Fro, Bob Schmidt's podcast a few times.
A lunatic. I love him.
I love Bob. Bob's terrific. I love him. And he told me a great story that Kenny was asking Max Strus to help coach the zone because he has so much experience in the Eric Spoelstra zone that he asked Max Strus, like, hey, like, how can we configure our zone? What are you seeing? And apparently he lets Max help in the coaching sessions and in the video room and like kind of direct Cleveland into playing a zone, which I love that you brought up that they play the second most zone after Eric Spoelstra, because it makes sense, right? They brought in a guy, Max Strus, to obviously to shoot and do other things, but funny enough that he's bringing some defensive things to Cleveland.
I got to be honest, man. Max Strus is probably like one of my favorite Cavs role players ever.
I fucking love that guy, dude. I miss him.
The thing is, he's a lunatic. Like he's an absolute lunatic. Like when some players call for a challenge, you're like, all right, they seem adamant. You cannot trust him. He is the most unreliable narrator. Every single play he's doing that. He plays basketball how I played basketball, which is like as a complete lunatic. But like Max Strus, like that's the thing. He's going to call guys out. I think it was like game 3 last year where he was complaining that the offense is basically like reductive. And he's like, like we don't have confidence in what we're doing. Like he's going to call that out very, very soon. And he's okay with, yelling at Darius or yelling at Donovan or Evan or all those guys. He's kind of like a coach on the floor, and he's been the perfect connector. His playmaking has taken a level up since he came to Cleveland from Miami. I think some of that last year was he had to play so much point guard because Darius missed a ton of time. Ricky Rubio, ended up missing basically, the start of the season and then retired. Ty Jerome rolled his ankle in game 1 and missed the rest of the season. So Max was playing point guard, but he really has been kind of that coach on the floor. And I think the other thing that's been super helpful is if you're trying to develop Evan Mobley to have some of that Bam in his offense, that 2-man game that Max Strus had with him, Bam Adebayo, like that was some special stuff. And he's been able to bring a lot of that to Cleveland.
Yeah.
When you have Darius and Donovan that can initiate offense and run really effective, whether it's a horn set or whatever the case may be with the bigs, that's an asset. But when you have Max Strus who can, come in as a screen setter, run kind of, a secondary initiation of the offense with one of those bigs, like that really gives you a lot of options from a playmaking standpoint. So he's been a really, really nice fit with that lineup.
And I think he's interesting in this series as well because Miami allows a ton of threes, and how I talked a little bit a second ago is Miami loves to help from the corner. So whatever guys on the weak side corner, they are gonna hedge in and they're gonna come. That guy's helping, and that's typically a guard, right?
Hmm.
Typically, and they've always configured it that way. Whether it's Dwayne Wade back in the day, Kyle Lowry, now it's Tyler Hero, or
Yeah.
sometimes it's Andrew Wiggins now. Actually, they like that low man to come help, from that weak side corner. And I think if you're Cleveland, it makes a lot of sense to have Max Strus there. You get that spacing on the other side. I think that's an easy pass for either DMitch, for anybody on the short roll too. I mean,
Yeah.
Miami doesn't blitz a ton, but if you do blitz and Jared gets in the short roll, I mean, we talked about his improved passing. That's not a difficult pass to make,
No.
especially when you're kind of rolling off that blitz or whatever, or off a slip. Miami is going to switch. We're going to see that at some point in the series. Bam is going to have to switch onto one of these guards. He's going to switch onto one of these wings or whatever. And it's going to be a fun moment if he switches on to Strus in Miami. I hope we get some fun like that.
That would be great.
I want the crowd
one
to
thing I'll
cheer
say,
it.
the
Yeah.
one thing I'll say about Miami and giving them 3-pointers, they do give up a bunch, but they're 29th in terms of how many of those are wide open. Like
Yeah,
they
because
do
they
a
will
really,
contest. Yeah.
yeah, they'll get the late contest. The NBA.com, I only consider like the 6 foot plus ones as wide open. The ones that they call open, that 4 to 6 range, that's really a late contest. Like if you're within 4 to 6 feet of a defender, you're getting a hand up.
Yeah.
But that's somewhat of a contest. Miami does a really, really good job of limiting the number of shots where there's just nobody in the same zip code as them.
Yeah, no, and that's impressive because I said and it's usually that guy on the wing that's making that read. And Eric Spoelstra talks about, we play on a string. That guy moves, you're in place. You make sure to cut off that pass, or you play the middle. And usually that wing is again a pretty okay to good defender. That could be Haywood Highsmith, who I think he's going to have an important role in this series as well because he's going to play on guards as well. He's going to play on Mitchell. I think more than Garland. I think they're going to try to keep probably
Yeah.
Wiggins and stuff like that. And Davion's they're going to switch. It's going to be interesting stuff. Real quick as we get out of here, anything offensively that you think Cleveland is gonna? I think that Cleveland's gonna win this game on offense. I think that their offense is potent. I think that obviously like Miami is historically up and down in terms of scoring. That for the most part they struggled to score. They've been playing a really good offense lately, but I think ultimately Cleveland's offense is going to be way too overpowering for the Heat. You seem to agree. Where do you think is Cleveland's win condition offensively against the Heat?
I'm very curious to see how they approach things offensively because, we talk about how my Boston mismatch hunts and, really kind of likes to pick on guys. The Cavs don't. Like they will run their offense.
Well, because
and
their guards are the ball handlers.
Right. And also, I think some of it is, we're going to get your bad defenders in action here, and we're going to, use Isaac Okoro or Max Strus as a screen setter. But we can use Garland as a screen setter. We can use Mitchell. We can use any of this. But we just kind of trust you. We trust our ability to get the defense in rotation and kind of beat you that way and generate easy looks rather than, all right, let's isolate a lesser defender and try to score in isolation. Like that uses a whole lot of energy. So I'm curious to see if they take that same approach in the playoffs, or if Kenny Atkinson, learns a little bit from his time as an assistant coach under Ty Lue, where in the playoffs there's a little bit more of that mismatch hunting. Do the Cavs go at Tyler Hero? The other thing that I'm curious about from kind of an offense defense standpoint is since they traded Karis LeVert and George Niang to Atlanta, we're seeing more 3-guard sets with the Cavs than we saw before, which really, really surprised me. Because I get the fact that Ty Jerome stepped in and replaced Karis LeVert. He's done a better job. He's been terrific for them. But they've still been using a lot of Sam Merrill. And if you're always going to have one of Garland and Mitchell out there on the court with Ty Jerome when they're not playing together, you can't really play Sam Merrill without it being, a 3-guard lineup. But if Miami's playing a lot of zone, having another high volume shooter and having him running off screens, off ball and getting those shots up, I'm very curious to see if they go that route and just have confidence that, hey, we're going to be able to do this against Miami. We think this is going to generate a lot of 3-point shots and it is going to get them into a little bit of a scramble. I'm very, very curious to see if they stick with their regular season approach and use a lot of Sam Merrill at small forward, or if they say, "Hey, we added DeAndre Hunter for a reason. We are able to play where the only guys that are under 6'5" are Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell, and we're going to have Isaac Okoro, Dean Wade, DeAndre Hunter, all of these guys playing on the perimeter, Max Strus playing on the perimeter, and just play a little bit bigger because Miami has length on the
They're
perimeter.
sneaky big. They're sneaky
Yeah,
big.
Miami has some real length, so I could see them going that way as well. I just don't know how Kenny's going to approach this.
I mean, they could play lineups that have the two bigs, Bam, Ware, Haywood Highsmith, Andrew Wiggins, and Davion Mitchell. Like, that's a lot of size and a lot of strength that you can throw at Cleveland.
Yep.
Justin, I actually think something interesting for Cleveland is DeAndre Hunter. We haven't talked a lot about him, but we talk about the zone. I mean, DeAndre Hunter is the kind of guy that you flash in the middle of the zone. I think Mobley's another guy. You got to trust his playmaking. Okay, we're going to flash Mobley in the middle here to make some plays similar to how the Celtics used Tatum against Miami's zone. And kind of to your point about the guards and everything, and I think if you look at the champions the last 5-6 years, it's all been power wings after the
Yeah.
Warriors, right? It was Kawhi, it was LeBron, Giannis, Tatum, and Jokic. Jokic is not a wing, but kind of similar in that I am stronger and will bully you and put your ass under the basket. And Aaron Gordon was huge on that team as well, like who kind of served that purpose. And you look at the teams that make the finals, right? I mean, the Heat have gone to the finals off of that power wing, right?
Yeah.
Off that mismatch hunting at the wing specifically. Jimmy at the 4. Hey, where is Kemba Walker? Where is bad defender X? Where is small defender X? I'm going to put you in the blender. And I
Yeah.
actually think the East doesn't have a ton of guys like that right now because the Knicks don't have that. The Knicks have Karl Anthony Towns, but the Knicks I don't trust their defense whatsoever.
Either.
We talked about Boston. They're going to settle for a bunch of mid-range numbers. Also, isn't Jalen's health is questionable right now or
Yeah,
something?
he's got something going on with his knee, so we'll see how that goes.
I have a lot of questions in the East. I think Detroit's interesting, but again, they're a guard team, Cade and everything, and they're not ready yet. The Bucks, I mean, who knows what's going on with Lillard's health? But again, I trust the Bucks in the playoffs because Giannis can find a small guy and absolutely run you over. Cleveland doesn't necessarily have that unless can Mobley do some of that? Can Mobley do some of that to Herro? Can they try to put Herro in a pick and roll and force something like that? Can they attack something like that? That's kind of what I'm asking, not just for this series. I can even see Miami being like, all right, Tyler, you're on max, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're going to put you on max. Wiggins on one guy, Davion on the other to have your guards, Herro on max, and then Bam and Ware on the two bigs. And I actually think that's a very realistic configuration for their defense because they're going to be like, okay, Max Strus, are you going to take Tyler to drill? Tyler, just chase Max around. You're pretty familiar with this game. I could see that happening. And then if that's the case, I think Cleveland is going to have to, because I think that kind of makes their defense a little airtight. Maybe you play a little bit of Hunter instead of Strus, and that makes your life very, very difficult if you're Miami. I actually think the series is going to be pretty interesting tactically from two coaches that are really good.
Yeah, DeAndre Hunter's been used since he's been acquired as a zone buster at times, right? Because he is someone that's able to hit that mid-range shot from the top of the key.
Would you say that he's a switch buster as well?
To some extent, yeah. And honestly, he gives them something that they just haven't had, which is that guy that's going to be able to, rise up and hit shots over a set defense, right? Like he is a big wing with a high arc, high release point. He's able to hit those. Yeah, he's able to hit those shots at a high level. And what's kind of flown under the radar with the Cavs the last two postseasons is, this whole we're going to stagger the bigs, we're going to stagger the guards. They'll play their 16 minutes together or whatever the case may be, so that we always have elite guys on both ends of the floor. That has worked in the regular season because there was always Dean Wade, to kind of be that power forward anchor. He was not available for the Knicks. He was not available in the playoffs last year. Now Dean Wade is available, and they have another option. That option is DeAndre Hunter. He's been primarily playing as a George Niang replacement, which is just an absurd level of upgrade. No disrespect to George Niang, but like DeAndre Hunter's ability to play that role, I think is going to be really, really big for them. He's someone that can initiate. He can score in isolation. He gets to the free throw line, which almost nobody on the Cavs does. So that's a bit
Miami
of a help.
Doesn't foul a lot either, which I think makes another kind of interesting element to the series where I don't even know. Zach Lowe kind of talked about this, whether he doesn't know if something like that's good or bad, where Miami's strength, quote unquote, is not something Cleveland relies on.
Right. Like you in theory, you would hope that the Cavs offense would translate to the playoffs because they don't rely on grifting. They, as Jared Allen says, they play they play ethical hoops, right? Like, but they do now have the option, and something that Kenny Atkinson was playing with down the stretch of, all right, we're going to play Evan Mobley with Gene Wade and DeAndre Hunter, and whether it be Ty Jerome and one of the guards or both of the guards, like, all right, now all of a sudden you have 2 6'10" guys and Evan Mobley as anchors for the defense, and we're going to make things really physical. We're going to make things really difficult for you. We have a lot of length out there. It almost reminds me of how they would play with Lowry Markkanen at small forward with Mobley and Allen, only with a whole lot more defensive versatility. So I think Hunter has really kind of changed the calculus for what this team can do, and they're heading into the playoffs the healthiest they've been in any of these runs, right? Like when they played New York. Here's the thing that always drives me nuts. National media, they're going to know the context for every other team, right? Like if Peyton Pritchard shoots, 5 of 15, they're going to be like, well, he got stuck in traffic. You can't really excuse, like, you have to understand he had a tough day getting to the arena. They didn't talk about Donovan Mitchell. He had a fractured finger on his left hand. His middle finger was fractured. He was playing with that taped up.
Like the Raptors. I'm well aware of all the things that Kyle Lowry played through that nobody cared about.
Right. And like,
I'm aware, buddy. I know I don't know how many hand injuries that guy got slandered for when DeMar was the one to blame.
Yes, he was.
You're in Canada. You know the fucking truth, Justin.
Dude, I know what the Cavs did to the Toronto Raptors. 2018's Cavs team was not good. The only series that was easy was Toronto because they said, where is DeMar DeRozan? Where is Jonas Valanciunas? We are going to pick on these guys every single damn play.
I watched it with my eyes. I saw that.
But, from a Cavs standpoint, like last year, Donovan was on one knee. He was able to finish the playoffs. He didn't play after the All-Star break. Evan Mobley had a high ankle sprain he was playing through. Darius Garland, well documented that he had lost 17 to 20 pounds after breaking his jaw. He wasn't able to eat solid foods. Not only that, he had a death in his...
break his jaw?
Porzingis broke it. So it was wired shut for 6 weeks. He came back. And then, as he was starting to feel a little bit of a groove, he had a death in his family. So he was flying back home between games in the, still trying to play every single game, but, being there as a support for the family, like, just a season from hell from a physical standpoint. This year, Mitchell missed the last couple games with an ankle injury, but that was pretty precautionary. That's it. Like, this is the healthiest they've ever been heading into the playoffs. So I think we are now fully able to, and this is why I want to challenge in Miami. This is why I want the healthiest version of the Milwaukee Bucks in the next round. We have the right supporting cast in place. We have the right coach in place to properly assess how good this core is. Can they rise in the playoffs? Like, when it was Ricky Rubio coming in off ACL tear and Danny Green on one knee as the Cavs supporting cast versus the Knicks, you can point to that and say, okay, well, they had no shooting. They had no supporting cast. Now the pieces are in place. Let's find out what the guards and bigs can do here. And that's what I really want. I want to be stress tested. I want to find out, is aspects of this fraudulent? Is this something that we have to work on internally to improve and get to the next level? Understanding that Evan Mobley is 24 years old and Darius is 24 years old. All right. Like, there is still room for internal growth, but we need to figure out exactly where we're at. And I think this team is good enough to finally assess exactly where this team is at.
Justin, is this a sneaky long series?
I don't think so. I have a very high level of confidence here. When the Cavs had their slump, later in the season, the one thing that wasn't talked about was they played 18 straight games where they never played in the same city twice. The NCAA tournament was in Cleveland. The MAC tournament was in Cleveland. I think it was actually like from February 8th on, 25 game stretch. They only had one stretch where they played 2 games in Cleveland. Everything else was a road trip. Everything else was a West Coast trip.
That's rough, man.
They were gassed. DeAndre Hunter said today at practice that this was his first practice with the Cavs that wasn't a shoot around. Like, the practices they've had this week, right? Like, so I think they really, really, really understand that there's skepticism with them. Darius has said it. He's like, Boston's going to look at us as a little brother. People are going to doubt what I can do in the playoffs. People are going to question us. We have to go out and prove it. I think this team has a chip on its shoulder, My brain tells me it's going to be Cavs in 5 because Miami always gets a damn game, and you guys are
It's always the one on
annoying
the
as hell.
road too. It's never a fucking home game.
I want to see if the Cavs can actually come out and I honestly think no matter how tough of a season Miami has had, if the Cavs can actually come out and sweep Miami, I think that would be a real feather in their cap. I think that would be something that they'd have to earn because Spo and Bam are going to make it tough, and Tyler Hero has had a hell of a year.
I kind of venture to say it's going to be Cavs in 4 or 5 for the same reasons, and I think that Cleveland ultimately, I think their offense is going to be too good. I actually think Miami's going to be able to score this series. Cleveland. What is Cleveland? They're top 11 defense.
Yeah, they're
they're
the number
solid, yeah.
5 defense in the half court. So that's something
Yeah,
that
the
we're really
size.
hoping that translates to the playoffs.
I think Miami has scored in their matchups as well, and I think that's kind of what we talked about Hero. And we haven't talked a lot about Wiggins offensively, but I mean, Wiggins is a guy that can't pick on their guards. Wiggins is a guy that is going to run pick and roll and put their guards in the post, and that's what Wiggins wants to do. I think out of every matchup, this is one where Andrew's going to okay, I can get Darius Garland in the post, and I have the size advantage, and I'm not Jason Tatum, and I think that that's going to be helpful. Donovan Mitchell as well. Like any of these smaller guys, he's going to be able to kind of mismatch on a little bit, and I do think that's going to be a bigger part of their offense than it's been throughout the season. I think that they're going to get a lot of relief buckets like that. I think that they're going to have a lot of inverted pick and roll as well. They can do some of that with Bam. They have like kind of those areas where they can kind of attack those Cleveland smalls to get points. And as we talked about, Hero against bigs and drop. And I think if Hero and Duncan have good series, that is, if I'm constructing Miami's win condition, I think defensively I think they have to play big. They have to play physical. The switching that we talked about in the zone, they're going to have to throw a lot at Cleveland's guards and offense. It's going to be I actually think that the way that they overhelp, they're going to have to really bet on that, and they're going to have to kind of swarm and recover, as Justin kind of said, how good they are closing out and everything. And I think if they play Miami Heat ball, I think defensively, ideally, if Bam has a really strong defensive series and can kind of really limit Mobley, I think that's if I'm constructing a scenario where Miami can make this interesting, it's that coupled with, obviously, they're good. They're the inferior team. They're going to need good shooting. And I think it's going to have to come off guys like Hero and Robinson that can really, I think Robinson in particular can really create havoc because, I mean, he's still the fire drill. I don't see teams throw 2 at Tyler. I see teams throw 2 at Duncan all the time. And if one guy gets hung up on a screen, because Bam sets Garnett screens, they are some guy on the wing is flying over.
Yeah.
And that's just positive for Miami. So that's what I'm constructing. I do think it's Cavs in 4 or 5. But I wouldn't be surprised if Miami gets game 1 or game 2. That's just what they do. That's what Spo does. They will smoke and mirrors your way into a win like that, and you can't count Spo out. But I think we're on the same page here.
Yeah, totally agree. Cavs played Miami pretty well in the regular season. They did lose that first game in Miami. Mobley left after 11 minutes. I think he turned his ankle or something like that. And
Was that the one in December?
Yeah, and George Niang went on Cleveland radio after and let us know that he and the rest of the Cavs enjoyed Art Basel very much.
And listen, if you're from Miami, Art Basel is very nice. We need more teams. We need the playoffs in Miami Music Week because that's how we really – you want to get wins, bro? Send these dudes to Factory Town.
Absolutely.
That's how we roll. Justin, appreciate you for making time for us as always. Enjoy the series. Listen, you're my title pick. I'm picking them to win. Either if Denver makes it, I'm sorry. I think Denver. I don't know. I have a lot of respect for Jokic. It might be PTSD, but I have a Nuggets Cavs finals, and if Denver doesn't make it, congratulations on the title.
Dude, for some reason, we always play Denver really well. Like, we have games where Donovan's out, and we still find a way to beat them. Like, the Cavs just always seem to beat Denver. It's the weirdest thing.
Although who's Denver's coach right now? Jamal Murray's cousin,
Maybe.
RFK.
It might be me. I should check my inbox.
And Michael Porter Jr.'s uncle, RFK, is he the coach?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, incredible stuff. Justin, where can people find your stuff? What do you guys got going on for the playoffs?
Yeah, so Carter and I will be in town in Cleveland for games 1 and 2. Really excited to go down there tomorrow. So we'll have some pregame coverage as well as postgame. We'll be going live postgame every single game throughout the playoffs. Wherever you found this podcast, you can find our podcast. We go live on the Cavs YouTube channel, so you can find us there. Don't worry about Twitter and Blue Sky. I barely post there anymore.
There we go. We're free. We're free from social media. Justin, follow Carter, follow Justin, follow their work. They're great guys. Appreciate it. And yeah, we'll see you for game 1.
Hell yeah, buddy. Let's have a good series.